Greetings, my ne'er-do-wells. It's Felgris here again from Azeroth's Court. In this video, I'm going to talk about a subject that I've been considering for some time. It's a matchup, what if crossover. Could Ainz Ooal of Overlord defeat the mighty Saiyan hero Goku? Now, a few years ago, I would have said, oh heck no, not possible. Ainz just isn't on Goku's level. And also, a magic user couldn't pose any real threat to Goku. But then they did the Moro arc, and Goku had a very hard time. And we're talking like post-tournament of power Goku, where later Super manga, beyond the anime Goku, in dealing with Moro. And Moro was pretty much exclusively a magic user. He does have that energy siphoning track too, but so does Ainz. And so it made me reconsider my assessment as if Ainz would stand a chance against Goku or not. My argument, upon careful consideration of both what happened to Goku when he faced Moro, as well as when he faced other magic users, such as Majin Buu, and especially in the original Dragon Ball itself, of course, he was a kid back then in the original Dragon Ball, but he did struggle. He did struggle against them. I think because they're so different to what Goku is used to dealing with, he's used to dealing with other fighters who use ki, the internal energy that basically wells up inside you. It's basically chi. That's what it is. Like ki and chi are the same thing if you're familiar with the ancient East Asian slash South Asian concept of ki, of the internal energy from the chakras. That's what it is. But he's more used to dealing with that than dealing with magical entities. Similar to Superman of DC fame in that case. But Superman also has a very hard time dealing with magic users, and in some iterations, even is weak against magic. Now, I would argue that Saiyans also are weak against magic, similar to Kryptonians. But at the very least, don't know how to deal with it. Now, getting back to the point of this video, why I think Ainz would pose a threat to Goku, even post-anime slash later manga Goku, is because Ainz is nothing but a magic user. That's his whole thing. He doesn't even have that chi because he's not alive. Or he has mana, which is basically just a fancy word for magical energy as opposed to physical life force. And his class of undead, people might say, oh, well, that opens him up to blunt force trauma. Well, he has a spell to lessen that. And also, Goku does not really rely, especially like later Z onward, on his martial arts prowess, meaning physical contact, like arms and legs, like kicks and punches, holds, stuff like that. Like a combination basically of judo and karate. He doesn't really rely on that. He uses those ki, those energy attacks. So would that apply as blunt force trauma? I think there's a good argument to say it wouldn't, because of what we see happen with Mara. Excuse me for the mispronunciation there. Mora. I always want to call him Mara, as in bone marrow. Anyway, I think there's a good case to be made that Ainz would not be susceptible to that either, that he would have a difficult time. More importantly than defensively, offensively, it would be a minus to Goku. Because he's already established he's not very good with magic. It goes antithetical to his own fighting energy technique. It's kind of something he doesn't understand. And just like Moro, Ainz also has life drain. He can drain the ki out of you or the life force. Let's just call it life force. Let's give it a one for one that ki is basically the same as life force because that's what it is in the Dragon Ball continuity. So he can like convert your HP, which we'll say ki is the same thing for all intents and purposes, into MP, health points into magic, points. So living energy to magical energy. Ainz also has spells such as Grasp Heart and Instant Death that he can just touch you and kill you, or even cast a spell on you and kill you. And of course, Grasp Heart, you can magically grasp your heart, and then using his hand, he can crush it and kill you. Now, would these be instant kills against Goku? It's a good question. I'm not quite sure if something like grasp heart would instantly kill him. It might, because Goku has been shown to be susceptible to damage from and even death from things that target his heart. I mean, there's a heart virus, and people might say you're comparing apples and oranges there. But he also, if his guard's down, he can even be killed by a bullet, as we see in his super. So there is a chance that this magic would at least hurt him severely, if not kill him. I don't think the instant death would kill him. I think his energy field is too strong for that. Once we're talking like Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, much less Ultra Instinct. But Ainz has other tricks up his sleeve. Besides energy drain, grasp hard, or instant death, he has spells like Meteor, which one could always argue Goku could dodge. And then when he can summon that monster there, the goat offspring monster, and other types of undead, Goku would at least have to deal with him. They'd probably think that they wouldn't pose a big threat. But then there is his reality warping ability, probably his ultimate magical spell, Wish Upon a Star, where he can basically bend reality similar to the Dragon Balls, maybe even beyond Shenron and more akin to the Super Dragon Balls. So I think that could really damage Goku, or could do something to him, transform him, or make him weak, or do something to him that would really be very dangerous. But people might argue that with things like Kamehameha and how quick Goku can move, especially when an Ultra Instinct, that Ainz would never even get a chance to touch him. But that's the thing, magic doesn't have to physically touch you or zap you with energy. Like, it can just affect you. Like a grass part, for example, as we see in our energy drain. He doesn't really have to actually physically contact him either with an energy projectile or even a physical, much less a physical touch. And then there's another interesting trump card that Ainz has, his perfect warrior spell. Mind you, can only use that once per battle, once per day, whichever you prefer. He can transfer all his magical energy into, let's say, type of key, so he can change all his MP, his mana, into HP, and trade in all his spells for being a perfect warrior. Now, would that be enough to fight Goku and match him? I'm not really sure, especially once we get to Ultra Instinct levels. But once again, it might be, because Mora has similar tricks. Not identical, of course. He can't become a perfect warrior, but he does have some similar tricks. We see in the manga, of course, Moro also combines with the planet something Ainz does, the Earth, and take it over. And spoilers, several-year-old manga, but, I'm sure people have seen it by now, but just in case they haven't. So that's something I don't think Ainz can do, but with that reality bending power of Wish Upon a Star, maybe good. But people would argue, old Felgris, Wish Upon a Star has quite a high fail rate, like I think like 1 in 4 or higher. But then he does have objects they haven't even got into yet, like equipment, that can allow him to re-roll that spell several times. Like his different rings, of course, his world item, that red ball that's in the center of his skeletal structure. A lot of people don't realize that's a world item. That basically boosts all his stats. And I haven't even covered all of the guy's spells. He's got like 700, like over 700. And he can use like different elemental attacks, fire, ice. Well, fire's gotta be careful because it could backfire at him as an undead. Weak against that. But he's got fire, electricity, ice, summon different undead. He's got all, skill drain. The skill drain would be interesting too, as opposed to he's also got life drain, but skill drain would be interesting. Could he basically take skills, at least temporarily, away from Goku? Things like the ability to use the Kamehameha for a while, or Kaio-ken, could he take that away from him? Which Goku is quite reliant on that. There's different battles. One could argue once he gets Ultra Instinct, he doesn't use it as much, in the later Super and the Dragon Ball Heroes mini anime, but could he take that away? Like take those skills away and convert them into energy just that he could use, or just take them away into the ether, or even clone them himself. I don't think Kaio-ken could work if he doesn't have any, key or life force, Ainz himself. But could he take away the ability, at least temporarily, to use Kaio-ken? Or what about the different transformations like God Key? Kind of a gray area. If that would qualify as a skill to be skill drained. So there's a lot of things to take into account. I think it's kind of murky, but I will say, I also think that Ainz possibly could be an interesting match for Goku, especially after what we established about Goku versus Moro and how similar Ainz is in many ways to Moro. And here's kind of a bit of a mind F for y'all to consider. Is Ainz's level of magic sufficient to pose a threat to Goku? Would he be like basically equivalent to God Ki? Because Moro doesn't really have traditional Ki, and even in its weakened state, early on is enough of a match for Goku to a great degree. Like Goku struggles with him. Once he gets full power, Goku has a really hard time dealing with him. I've seen arguments that I'm, because of his feats seen on screen, especially in the anime or even the manga, is only Moonbuster or maybe at most the solar system, if we're being very generous, galactic level. The Goku is like universal or multi-universal by the time you get to the end of Super, so that I stand no chance. I don't think the power scaling is 1-to-1. It's easy to like come up with commonalities in that way because Ainz never really faces any super strong opponents like Goku, so we don't know his limits of what he can actually do. The closest we ever see is when he fights Shaltir, and even under mind control, there was some indication, especially in the manga, that Shaltir's kind of holding back, that she doesn't really want to hurt, quote unquote, her love Mamunga. So there's that to take into account too. Even if she wasn't holding back, Ainz kind of used some of the items to nerf her, and also to end the fight quicker than it would have otherwise. Like the little cheat sticks, where he couldn't do himself and down himself with different abilities. So it's not really a good gauge of his power. So there are some feats he does later in the manga, or some things he does in the Isekai Quartet, the crossover series. Kind of a comedy of of Ainz. You have kind of Suba characters in there. You have ReZero. You have Sagatani the Evil and Shield Hero. There are some feats he does in there. For example, when he like creates a blizzard and changes the season from summer to winter using like 10 very complex magical circles at the same time, and all the other characters, including the protags of the different isekai, such as you know Kazuma, Subaru, and Tanya, are very impressed that he's able to do it and say it's like one of the greatest feats they've ever seen in Magic, considering how OP these characters are. Not only that, but the characters they surround themselves with are equally OP, or in some cases, such Subaru is even more so. And we're talking about characters like Puck. Uh, that does make Ainz rather impressive. But like I say, it's really hard to scale how powerful Ainz is. But I say he's at least as powerful as the earlier weakened Moro. So to make a long story short, my conclusion is I'd say he could pose a threat. Could he defeat Goku or not? Just really not enough data. I think the fight would be interesting. He'd at least pose a somewhat interesting challenge similar to Moro for the reasons that I went over. Well, that's all I have for this video. From Azeroth's Court, Ne'er-do-wells, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe so we can grow our channel. I appreciate everyone sticking with me and who is watching these videos. And from Azeroth's Court, see you later, Ne'er-do-wells. Bye-bye, my ne'er-do-wells. I shall see you later.